How did the Vikings treat their elders? Was the Viking Age in reality much longer than the official definition? How did you first learn of your Viking heritage? I asked my patrons if they had any questions that I should include in a Q&A video, and I have printed out from my Viking printer these questions here. So here's the first question. Could you talk about thralls or slaves, how they were seen and treated then, how they are seen today in historical context, where they came from, and what their rights were or were not? In reality, we don't know the full story. They came from everywhere. Prisoners of war, and also people would be born into slavery. They did not have the same rights as other people. They could not, as a slave, you did not have property rights, and you were not protected in the same way by the law. It's a dark part of Scandinavian history, of course, but also we need to understand that the difference between a common peasant and a slave was not maybe that big as if we compare it to slavery in North America and the transatlantic slave trade and all of that. When did you first learn of your heritage? Did you always know? Actually, I was very lucky because a relative of mine is doing, the research on ancestry, and she told me, and she actually sent me the whole family tree going back hundreds of years. So that's how I learned that I have a Viking heritage. Here's another question. As a modern Norseman and novelist, how do you reconcile, come to terms, or keep objective and neutral with thorny aspects of the Viking era versus the not so brutal practices and ethic principles of our time while writing? By thorny aspects, I mean subjects like slavery, woman-child elder mistreatment, and so on, which may have been common during Viking era, but quite infuriating and intolerable today. Well, as a novelist, I'm just being honest, and I don't try to hide anything. I don't want to hide the realities of the Viking Age. That being said, many of the things that people today believe about the Viking Age is not true. Mistreatment of elders, for instance, I don't know where that comes from, but that was probably not common. Why would they do that? There is even this crazy story about the old people having to throw themselves off a cliff so that they wouldn't be a burden to their local society and to their family. That's just nonsense. I honestly don't know where that comes from, but most likely the Norse, they took care of their older relatives, and they took care of their children, and they took care of each other, because that's the right thing to do, and also it's how you need to operate in order for a society to function. That being said, it was a different time. Death was much closer at any given time. Here's another question. What fundamental Norse Viking Age belief, custom, practice, combination of these, or motivation underneath them would the other cultures of the world find invaluable if only they could receive it? What we as Norse have to offer. And I believe I will answer from the context of pre-Christian times, because with the introduction of Christianity, all of Europe became more uniform, I would say. closeness to nature. Now, while that is not unique to the Old Norse, it's essential. It's very essential, and the understanding of life and death and nature and seasons as being circular instead of this linear way of thinking that we have today would be very beneficial in modern society. Also, this attitude that I will actually use a Finnish word, a Finnish expression, sisu. That was obviously not unique to the Norse, but I think it's very very Viking. In my opinion. How do your beliefs shape or guide your daily activities? Here comes a controversial one. I'll step right into it. I do not believe in forgiveness. I believe in letting go, moving on. I do not believe in forgiveness. And that's very difficult for modern people to understand. But it is very, very in line with Viking Age Scandinavian society, I would say. But it's not only that. Being in nature, connecting with nature, understanding nature through on a spiritual level, I would say. Yeah, I'll move on there. Wasn't the Viking Age much longer than the official definition? Yes, it was. First of all, nobody in the Viking Age were walking around saying, this is the Viking Age, we are in the Viking Age now. And at 1066, Battle of Stamford Bridge, they said, oh, now the Viking Age is over. No, that's not how it was. Some people are talking about a Viking Age before the Viking Age. And it's kind of... historians just made a definition. But Viking activities existed, and they were a thing before the Viking Age. The attack of Lindisfarne, and it also continued to some extent after 1066. But after that, it became very difficult to do the raids and all of that because power was centralized. But that's a big discussion among historians, I guess. My dear patrons have also asked me some questions about the ships, the Viking ships and the technology. I think that's such a big topic that I will talk about that in another video. I don't know everything at any given time about the Viking Age, so it takes a little bit of additional research, that one. But there's an interesting one here. What do you think Norway would be like today if Christianity never came and remained Norse pagan? I actually planned a video on that. I will do a separate video on that probably in the near future. Right now I'm thinking Christianity centralized power. It took away power from the local communities. It might have acted as a stabilizing force, meaning that you got a tyrannical king, which is not a good thing, but it's at least stable to some extent. If Christians are provoked by what I'm saying here, please understand that we're talking about 1,000 years ago. Christianity was different then and practiced in a different way, and it was a political tool. That's what it was. So yeah, I'll leave that for that other video actually. Here's another question that I really can't answer straight up now, but what genetic and isotopic studies of Viking era burials reveal about migration patterns, ethnicity and the diversity of people who identified as Vikings? Well, I know a guy who specializes on that, so I might have a conversation with him. But what we do know is that the Norse, or the people who lived in Scandinavia, were not necessarily these tall blonde people who were just a very uniform ethnic group. I'm not going to say that they were ethnically diverse, because that's not true. And I know that's a very fashionable thing to say about the Norse now, but they intermarried with people in Ireland, in other parts of the world, of course. And on Iceland you can find in their DNA traces of people from North America. So yeah, but I'll get back to that one in a separate video. So, the Viking Age is so fascinating, and I want to ask you, again, I know you've heard this before, but please subscribe to this channel and help me fight the battle against those fake AI channels out there and the misinformation. It's rampant at this point, and it's everywhere. So please subscribe, and that's how you support this channel. I make videos every week. You will find them here on my channel every Saturday. So yeah, thank you for that. I miss the horses. They were out on the field here all summer. My friends, they came over to the fence every time I walked past. Yeah, they will be back next summer, I guess. Yeah, we're in the dark months now, the dark time of the year. Yeah. And winter will soon be here. Now, a couple of words about Patreon. I believe you can sign up for free. Now, there will be exclusive content to paying members, like exclusive videos and so on. But yeah, you can go and check it out. I'll put a link on the screen, and you will find it in the video description as well. Thank you for spending some time with me out here in my local woods by the campfire. I upload videos every Saturday, if I didn't say so already. You'll find some other videos on the end screen here, and you might want to check those out as well. Yeah, I'll see you in a few days. Okay, bye bye.